Democratic Party. One lawmaker is getting pretty angry when confronted about the mess members are in right now. Plus, a new report is out on one approach the party is taking to win back a vital voting bloc: men. One Republican responded with this.
They really genuinely can't figure out why young men voted for Donald Trump. They're in these luxury hotel rooms trying to figure out what are the words we should use. Just talk like normal people. Why is it so hard?
Well, Democrat fury over this report that was based on a gathering of ideas from focus groups for what people think about the two parties. A New York Times piece titled "6 months later, Democrats are still searching for the path forward." And part of that article says this, quote, "Republicans are seen as apex predators like lions, tigers, and sharks, beasts that take what they want when they want it. And Democrats are typically tagged as tortoises, slugs, or sloths, slow, plodding, passive," end of quote. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz did not like that comparison.
I'm not focused on the animals that some New York Times reporter compares the political parties to. My constituents are human beings.
I will tell you, it was the voters who were making the comparison with animals, and this was a focus group. It wasn't the New York Times reporter coming up with these labels. This was a Democratic-led focus group to try to figure out perceptions of the parties.
Don, you said they were asked to compare the parties, so they were prompted to compare the parties to animals. That is ridiculous.
Well, while some Democrats have expressed anger about the unfavorable views of their party, others have pointed to some problems.
The way that you start to reach groups that you have lost favor with or that used to support the party but now don't, and you're losing traction with them, is partly a language thing, but really it's more of a substance thing.
Democrats do themselves a disservice by not engaging in some introspection here and some reflection on how it is that the party that sees itself as the party of working people came to be seen by so many working people as a party of elites.
Power panel now: Jeremy Hunt, former Army intel officer and chairman of Veterans on Duty, and Fred Hicks, Democratic strategist. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. It's interesting. Look, I know these Democrats, former strategists, whomever, are being asked questions about this, but they have no loss for words talking about each other, themselves, all the things. I don't hear about the voters and what they learned from November 5th.
That's exactly right, Harris. I mean, the Democrats have become a party of the elite, as many of us know. A lot of the working class voters have flocked to the Republican Party, and a lot of the high net worth and college educated voters are flocking over to the Democrat Party. And the thing about elites is that elites tend to think that all of their ideas are always better than other people's. They tend to think that if they could just be in charge and tell Americans what to do, that everything will work out fine. But the problem is that Americans obviously do not respond positively to that. And the issue is that the Democrats, if you listen to what they're saying, they think their issue is messaging, that we need to do better messaging. That is fake humility. It's not actually, they aren't willing to say that maybe it's our ideas, maybe it's the stances that we've taken. And what they want to say is that if we can just, educate these, these dumb working class people to our ideas and tell them why we know what we're talking about, then they'll vote for us. Like it's not going to work. And they actually, if they really wanted to get to the root of their problem, they'd actually do some real authentic introspection, not this fake humility about messaging.
Wow, the debate is on now, Fred. Fake humility. Wow. I mean, that's a phrase, and it captures a lot of what it seems like is going on your side of the aisle.
Well, I think it captures one person's perspective. And let me just say this before we really get into
well,
this.
And some of the people in that report who called you, what they call you, slow, plodding, and passive. I mean, does that describe you as a Democrat?
Well, so Harris and Jeremy, I think what we're losing sight of right now is why we're even having this discussion. And the reason why we're having this discussion is that Donald Trump just pushed the Congress to pass a bill that's going to add over $3 trillion in debt to the U.S. government. He is violating due process. He has been challenged in the courts, and the courts ruling against him left and right, including when he's trying to tell institutions of higher education how to manage their business. And so the whole reason why we're here is because Donald Trump is leaving what I've said before is a cavernous opening for Democrats and for Americans Americans really to step forward. And here's the other thing. If this was a Democrat doing the things that Donald Trump are doing, then Republicans would be up in arms. And my philosophy is that
hold
if
on a
it's right when a
second.
Democrat
You
does
have
it, it's
plenty
right
of
when a
time
Republican
to
does
be
it.
up in arms, but you're all focusing on, you're navel gazing. You're focusing on yourselves. You're trying to fix it. The
Well,
fake
no,
humility. Look, that's
what
a
we're doing is we're
catchphrase
looking
now
at
that Jeremy has come up with, but you got to call it for what it is. And
It is a huge
what it
opening for
is you
Democrats,
have a
and we're
lot of
trying to figure out how to
complaints
take
about
it.
Donald Trump, but you're not doing anything to go forward other than lawfare.
Lawfare. So what we're doing is we're looking at how to take advantage of this opening, and so we can fight for Americans. Again, unfortunately, with this big, beautiful
Which
bill
Americans?
that they
The
passed
rich
last
Americans?
week.
God love us
No,
all,
the average,
you ignore the average people, income
the
people.
Americans who are relying upon Medicare, Medicaid, and basic services that are being cut in favor of the rich and the famous. That's who we're fighting for.
Jeremy, pick up, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, look, I mean, the whole issue there is that there's a total reluctance to actually look and say, what are the substantive policy positions that we've taken and why aren't they working? The problem with Democrats is that they don't believe that Americans, I don't know if they don't think Americans are smart enough to actually care about the issues, but a lot of Americans do. And now with social media and the availability of information, we actually can get the facts and get an understanding of what's really going on. We don't have to go through legacy media anymore. We don't have to rely on the Democrat Party talking points. And once that whole veneer has started to fall, now Democrats are being exposed for what they are, and that's a party of out-of-touch elites.
All right, let's get to this way. Republicans are mocking Democrats now over a proposed plan to better communicate with male voters, and it could cost $20 million at least. According to a New York Times report, quote, the Speaking with American Men plan promises to invest in syntax and language to connect with men. It also recommends advertising in video games and avoiding a moralizing tone. Congresswoman Lisa McClain, chairwoman of the conference committee, says this about that. The Democrats are getting ready to light $20 million on fire to study their unpopularity, exclamation point. Another Republican says the Democrats declared war on masculinity and a lost generation of young men instead of doing an introspection as to what they did wrong. They're going to invest $20 million studying male syntax to try to better communicate their radical message, end quote. And here's conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
If they think that's what it's actually going to take to win back young men, maybe you need a message and a messenger that they can relate to. The Democrats have had a moralizing, almost scolding tone to them that if you do not adhere to our orthodoxy, you are a non-believer and you are not allowed in our ranks. And because of that, men of America have been sick and tired of being told what to do from a political party that hates them.
Fred.
So I appreciate the fact that the Democratic Party understands that it has a problem based on the poll results and the election results from last year. The reality is that Democrats did lose a large portion of vote share, really across many segments, including with men. And so this is something that needs to be addressed. And I think that's a really good thing to acknowledge that there's an issue there and that we need to work on that. That being said, again, as I just mentioned, I think there are a number of areas where we talk about the message or the substantive parts of policy, that there's something there. As a man, I don't want to leave my kids or my grandkids or my nieces and nephews when I have them and all of that with a $3 trillion increase in the deficit. That's not what we voted for. The hypocrisy of this version of the Republican Party versus what they ran on in 2024 versus what they're doing in 2025 is galling. And as men, we're going to be left holding the bag with that.
Wow.
And I think Democrats are wise to look at how to handle that.
Now, I don't think you're paying attention to what the economy is actually. You do know inflation's been going down. I mean, I don't know how much attention you're. It was at 9%.
It was steering down.
It couldn't go any higher without people ending up in the streets. I mean, come on. We can't argue about the Biden-era inflation without taking a look at just how historic it really was. Jeremy, last word.
The $3 trillion.
Yeah, look, if Democrats really wanted to make a difference and make a change, they wouldn't spend $20 million on studies or more polling. It's all about just listening to people. Just listen to Americans. Invest in flight tickets. It's in all these Democrat staffers and media personalities on the left and all these people who are, have influence on the left. Fly out to real America, get outside the D.C. Beltway, and actually listen to people. Not for a photo op, not for a press conference or a press release. Just listen to Americans, listen to men, see what are the issues that we actually care about, and then maybe they'll see some results. But I don't know if that's what they're going to do. Based off of Fred's talking points, I don't know if they're in the right position to even think that way.
Well, look, listen to people
listening.
and then devise really good policy. I mean, Fred's got it. It's just not happening at all. All right, gentlemen, thank you. The House
Thanks,
Oversight Committee.